I'm sad to hear about Henry. I had assumed that the news would have a greater impact on me, but it was really easier to handle. You wouldn't have handled the news as well as you did. Come on. You would have been yelling and weeping. I really returned to work after leaving Tom's office because I handled it like a man. I'm a 5, and I know Tom, the doctor I play golf with, who just gave me my death sentence. Went to see Tom for a standard physical for insurance purposes, and he contacted me after he had all the test results, saying my bilateral clavicle had some sort of nuclear melanoma. Since I'm not a doctor, I only recovered for 8 months to a year. At most. Would you want to join me for a fatty cheeseburger? I'm following my diet. Would it kill me now? A lot has transpired since that incident a few weeks ago, so I might even get some onion rings. You most likely want me to tell you about it. But if not, why are we sitting at this bar talking? Screw you. I'll tell you the tale nevertheless. It was a very ordinary day, and I did eat my Che burger and return to work. After completing paperwork, making phone calls, and handling other people's issues, I visited Tom, who informed me that he was dead meat. I drove about trying to recall where my workplace was after leaving his office without my trousers on and returned. I went home to my wife, Emma, after doing further paperwork to acquire my trousers. Was going to be distraught, and I was just going to break the news to her, which I had handled very well till then. Pondered how I would deliver the news to her while standing at my front door. How do you tell someone you've loved for more than half a century? How would Emma handle it if you were about to die? She's attractive, gone, and she's always been a bit of a brat. I was dating one of Emma's friends at the time, and she approached me and told me what she wanted, which is how we ended up together. At the time, it seemed improbable when she ambushed me at a party and announced that we were getting married. Rather unexpected at first, but that's what occurred 25 years ago. I hadn't been chased by a female before, and I wasn't sure. I never considered myself to be a very appealing prospect, but Emma was. She was not on par with me, and I. She subsequently told me that she saw something in me, and that she probably never would have asked her to dance, much less be married. I flipped the door's lever, so I suppose I'll have to show to her that I'd always be there for her. Chose Emma's method, which I wasn't intending to do, and entered the home to a huge surprise birthday celebration, with all of my family and friends gathered in the room, along with cake and balloons, all for young Henry. I believe my expression conveyed the appropriate level of astonishment. I could see my parents were there, and this was the last thing I wanted in the world at the moment. I wasn't ready to tell everyone at once, so I flew in. My kids, who were too far away to be present for me. I should have anticipated something, but I had to swallow all I had planned for my wife and do it later. For example, Emma loves to host parties, and it was my 55th birthday. I believe she could have turned Yugoslavian Independence Day into a job, but she chose to do it for joy. I smile. Emma questioned me. What's wrong? It looks like someone stole your puppy. It must have been rather obvious to her. Just didn't anticipate all of these folks, and I understand that you were anticipating your big surprise in the. She smirked and said, Don't worry, you can have that too. You just need to wait until everyone has left. As if that were going to occur tonight. Sex was the last thing I was thinking of at the moment, and Emma was in her. As the appropriate hostess, she took care of all of our guests. Emma would frequently pause and look at me while grinning. Since we first started dating, I've seen that she would pause what she was doing, glance at me, and grin. It was a small gesture that let me know Emma still loved me even after all these years, so the celebration couldn't stop soon. Enough for me, but it did come to an end when I went to bed and locked up for the night, and Emma was there to greet me in my new gift for her birthday, and she looked even more beautiful in that garment. Emma had put on roughly 25 pounds. It was our tradition to spend the night making love after one of our weddings, and they all went to the appropriate areas. I was such a pitiful excuse for a guy, but tonight would be the first time I let her down at the gatherings. Now, all I could do was pray that the days I had left wouldn't be like this one, which came out of nowhere and gave me. I got up to grab some aspirin after Emma went to sleep because I had a headache, and I looked at the bottle in the medical cabinet, and it was empty. Emma often carried a headache remedy in her pocketbook, so I walked to the kitchen and began searching for it. I'm not sure how ladies manage to find anything in their purses. I threw her purse's contents on the table. Fortunately, I threw the tablets back, but when I discovered something that shouldn't have been there, I nearly choked. There were 12 empty condom packages. We hadn't used any. Emma had been using condoms, and I had been taking the pill and had a. After our youngest was born, all I could think was, I'm sorry, Henry. How many people do you know? As the coil was placed. That receiving the death penalty twice in a single day is known as double jeopardy. Happy birthday, I walked to the closet and took out one of Emma's large gulp glasses, which holds a lot of whiskey. I needed it at that moment to silence the numerous voices in my brain. And I'm going to die because of Gray Skull. I'm sorry, Henry. The cheater lives in a pineapple beneath the sea. Hey, you SpongeBob SquarePants chicken, add some ice to that whiskey last. I was too Unk at the time to recall which drawer she kept the ice in, but one made more sense than the others. That's funny. After the Titanic struck the iceberg, I felt like my soul had a huge hole in it. Emma been unfaithful to me. Hadn't I been a nice spouse to her all along? What a horrible way to emphasize the. I woke up with the worst hangover I've ever had, and they quit drinking because they couldn't hold their liquor. Don't even try to understand what I just stated. Emma covered me with a blanket at one time, but she still added, trust me, it was bad. Had some affection for me, which gave me some solace. I needed more aspirin, but I refused to search Emma's handbag. I should have read the label before swallowing the pills I discovered in the bathroom once again, and then I saw they were dangerous. I believe I vomited that hamburger 9 times. If you're intoxicated and dreaming, it's a good idea to take laxatives. If only I could have thrown my brains out. They would have been the source of the anguish after 4 or 5. I doubt I had a sesame seed left in my stomach after 5 hours on the throne, but the sense of betrayal was intact. In my more than 28 years of marriage, I never once questioned Emma's ability to. What a foolish thing to suppose that she didn't wait till I was buried before doing this to a dying man. I had not yet informed her that I was a goner, but perhaps I won't let that be my major surprise to her. Instead, we would. You understand what I mean when I say that if we both woke up one morning, I would be dead. I spent the remainder of the day making a self-promise to never drink once she revealed her filthy little secret. Again, I've never been one to look for things, but I guess there wasn't much left of it for the rest of my life. Actually, I came to like the thought of retaliation. There were many things I had never done before that seemed to look fantastic. I'd never had a sports vehicle because it was too dangerous, and I'd never jumped from an airplane because it was too costly and dangerous. But the one thing that struck me as the biggest danger was having an affair, which was never something to think about previously. But now that I could see some benefits to trying, I had to let Emma know how much it hurt. Done it to me, and even though it wasn't exactly the melanoma, the agony was killing me, so I made the decision to offer her something that would bring back happy memories of her old, gray, and unfaithful spouse. Yes, I was going to. I didn't have much time left, so I was going to go fool about a bit on the side and take off a piece here and there. Now, let's see who is sorry. Down in a blaze of glory. Henry, yes, today marks the beginning of the end of my life. I was always careful and considered the possible outcomes of every situation, but now I don't consider the worst-case scenario. Would pass away. That was inevitable anyhow, so why stress about it? Who might I have an affair with? Let's see, my secretary. No, I didn't want to upset anyone since she was a good person with a family. Who did I know who was unmarried, and which of them would most likely piss Emma off? Her sister. Yes, there was a chance that Melissa, who was divorced and likely had been unmarried for some time, was experiencing a little lustful by now, so that may work. If not, who else might be her mother? Emma would be upset since her father passed away a number of years ago, and Ellen most likely hadn't been enough. What did it matter if I needed to lose weight after being screwed for 25 or 30 years? Since Ellen was rather fit, it couldn't be too hard, could it? This would be easy, and she would likely ask me to. She would be pleading for it in no time, so prepare a screw. That's how it always goes in those adult novels. I was putting my life back on track with Emma's mother, but I'll be short on time. How should I seem cool at home? I choose to play it cool and ignore Emma or cut her off. It's a terrific strategy because you can declare that everything is well and there. I made up for my prior poor performance in bed a few nights later. So don't worry, Emma thought. I was really honing my technique since I didn't want to disappoint Ellen, but it was all for her. I was just peering out the window in my chair, considering how to approach Ellen, when Emma emerged from the kitchen, paused and gave me the same look she normally gives me, Except this time she gave me a dejected expression in place of her typical last grin. She stared at the old idiot with a sour expression on her face and shook her head, indicating that she had been dishonest. I could see with certainty that the expression that had always reassured me was no longer there on her face. When Emma was visiting her sisters the next weekend and Ellen needed a ride to bingo, it was my chance to meet Ellen. Since life is too short to pass up possibilities, I reasoned that Ellen will eventually receive a. After meeting her in the driveway, I assisted her into the car and shut the door behind me. Driver's seat, I pulled out my penis, opened my pants, and greeted my coworker Ellen, who looked down at my buddy Henry and inquired about his well-being. She appeared worried, so I said that I wasn't sure whether driving was a smart idea. She asked whether I had ever wanted to be a bit wicked when he was like that, and I told her that I had, teasing her a little. Little? Oh, you mean like this, she said, revealing her skirt. I was the one who was startled to discover Ellen's elderly bear wearing a black garter belt. We nearly collided with the rear of a garbage truck after Kitty forced me to swerve. I could only. Henry, you are hilarious, and I enjoy the headlines about the pervert killing his mother-in-law with a garbage truck. Offer. However, I'm not certain that I'm the best candidate for the position because I've already had sex with 1-0. F them, and she laughed my. Unfortunately, the downsizing tool was no longer visible. I suppose this was a bad choice. Oh, Henry, you're such a sweetheart, but we're not actually going to do anything since I have every male I want waiting for me. Bingo, I need a ride to the Elm Street Hotel. You should be aware that I'm meeting with a few of young males. A pair, as in two yes dear boy a couple a few times a week. That probably surprises you, but up until Harry's passing, I was a devoted wife. Quickly came to the realization that I still had desires and that there was no excuse for me to ignore them, but Ellen and a couple at the. Incredulously, I said, Henry, don't be such a prude if you'd offered. I would have given you a ride to remember if you had come to me many years ago, but I've become attached to my young guys today. We drove to the hotel in quiet since we didn't think you could handle the situation. Would Emma act like it when I was away? I suppose it runs in the family. Screw me. I'm a fool. As I left Ellen off at her rendezvous, she turned to me and kissed my cheek, saying, if only you'd. She apologized to Henry a bit sooner, but then she flashed herself once again and left for a gangbang. This was really heartwarming for the elderly girl. My ego was as large as my shrunken tool at the moment, pleading for it. If I were dying of an incurable illness, might my current state of distress possibly worsen? Ferrari is too Italian, and the Corvette is too American, despite what you would believe. It's true that the Porsche is too small for the Cobra. I temporarily put the affair on hold in order to do something foolish. Have you ever looked for a car like that? Why does everything I touch turn into a routine? I would be dead 2 years before I ever got to drive the dang thing. According to the doctor, I'm dying since my wife of 28 years has become sex-crazed, and I can't even entice a 70-year-old. I'm not a man enough for her this year. What's the next plan? Screw Emma, Melissa, and Emma's sister. I felt a bit more hopeful after the last unsuccessful effort at seduction, so I questioned Emma about it in a very innocent way. Melissa would be happy to have a partner if every woman in that household was as sex-crazed as Ellen. I had a key to her flat, so I waited until I knew she was there after 8 months without. Was in bed when I crept in, feeling like a cat burglar employing cunning to get my treasure. I cautiously, before going into the bedroom, I took off everything I was wearing so I could see the shape of her sleeping. She was only wearing a sheet, so I slipped up behind her, put my arms around her, and toyed with her breasts, and she was totally at my mercy as I put my hand between her legs. I started to finger her as I carefully made my way to her bed without waking her up since my plan was going brilliantly. I toyed with her breasts, and at first I didn't reel. I see when the sheet flew back, I heard someone shout, and I fell to the ground. Melissa said, "Are you crazy?" Instantly realized why Melissa hadn't been seeing any males. There were 3 of us in bed all nude, and just one man in the load. I curled myself into a small ball and wailed. Melissa cradled me in her arms like a baby, and I grieved till I could not shed another tear. Judy, her lesbian lover, touched my hair while participating in the ACT. He kissed my forehead as a mother would. I can honestly say that how many men do you know who would do that? Even though we merely shared a bed, I've had sex with 2 lesbians, so this whole dying thing isn't as bad as it seems. definitely made me shiver because I could sense those voices returning, and they were furious that Melissa had. I hope they'll be as content together as I was, and I've been a peach about handling my wrong behavior. Melissa asked Henry, "What on earth is going on?" as she was leaving the room. "I know you, Henry, but this isn't like you, come on." Henry explains what's happening, but I hesitated since it's so difficult to express. You only need to speak the words. It's not as if you're going to say, "Oh, come on, Henry, this is." I sincerely hope Emma never discovers Melissa's face because if she did, she would be in severe danger. Melissa, the doctor, told her it would take 8 months to a year. So she came to me and expressed her amazement at what I had stated, hugged me and said, "Oh my God, Henry, I'm so sorry for pushing her away." Everyone is sorry. Tell me, Melissa, why I don't feel better despite all the sympathy in the world. You're sorry, I'm sorry, the doctor is sorry. The world won't help me now, she said, and Emma must be dying inside with you. She didn't know, and I wasn't going to tell her that Henry is crazy since she had every. I said, "Are you?" And she exclaimed, "No, she doesn't. She gave up that right when she slept with another guy there." Happy Henry, you're mistaken if you believe Emma would ever cheat. We're dealing with a major mental health issue here. No matter what strategy C uses to confront her, she will always adore you. How could this be any different? At least I'll pass away peacefully, even though it was going to hit the. I didn't develop a napping habit since Emma was waiting for me at the door as soon as Melissa called. I would never stay out all night without contacting her before she gave me a hug since there were nude lesbians there. She may not have spoken to Melissa yet, but that wouldn't really alter anything. We still needed to put in all the work. Our cards on the table. Henry, you had me anxious and ill. I had some. Emma, I said, we need to talk because you've been acting a little oddly recently, and I believe I understand why I can't just relax and let you deal with this alone. What do you think you're? When I spoke to Tom, you were unable to even speak clearly, and I don't know what I mean. And by that, Henry, I tried my best not to annoy you, but I interrupted Tom the other day. What did you say? I said that Tom was a big mouth, and he had no right to inform you that I was dying. I also remarked that I was dying, but he had no right to say that. I was expecting that would be the moment she was asking for, but instead her face had completely whitened out, and she passed out. Thought there was no need in carrying on with this act. If she wouldn't stay up long enough for me to speak with her, I may. Go play golf too. I grabbed my driver's license since I didn't want to play a complete 18. I really wanted to smash a few balls around Tom's office with the balls I took out of my bag, but sadly for Tom, he was fortunate that he wasn't at work since we were linked to him, but I wasn't so fortunate when the police eventually located me at the Golf Emporium. I was choosing a new, larger driver because my previous one wasn't up to the. Did you see the attempt to smash down his office door? You undoubtedly know that the cops won't. It's a very absurd law to allow someone to bring golf equipment into their cell after being arrested. I didn't believe they would let me to have it with me either. You asked me, what did they think I would do? I ordered a pizza from Domino's, and Emma came before it did. One pizza is hardly enough for two, so I was a little irritated when Tom entered my cell just behind her. The guard then unlocked my door, and told me I could walk anywhere I wanted to. Tom's huge mouth opened first, Henry, so you had to pay attention. I understand that you're sad, but I have some wonderful news for you. You won't die, at least not anytime soon. There was a computer issue at the lab, but you're fine, Henry, he remarked excitedly as he waited for. The worst news he could have given me was that I didn't move, so I assumed I would have to live with it. Emma said, "Isn't that wonderful news, honey, after cheating on me for another 30 years. Yeah, but is my pizza here yet? You're not going to die," she said when I inquired whether she had heard Tom. But Emma, nothing changes. My life is still finished. I simply get to live a long time and endure the suffering every day. Henry, she started shaking me after ignoring Tom and grabbing me by the shoulders. Stop that, Henry. Why are you acting like such a jerk with your purse? You mean those condoms, Henry, that I used for balloons at your birthday party? You didn't actually think about that, did you? She said, why didn't you just ask me, with sorrow in her eyes? I remember my celebration and that there were. No, those were rubbers, not balloons. Oh, this is bad now that I'm going to die. I thought, oh Lord, please take Emma away, because I was so heartbroken that she was going to murder me when she learned about her mother and sister. Emma hadn't cheated on me after all, and the fact that I've been a bad boy. You can no longer trust Ennio. First my doctor and then my own eyes because the melanoma machine was on the fritz. I should file a malpractice lawsuit against them both. What would Emma do in this situation? She would definitely come directly to me and inform me that I owed her the same. I wasn't going to try to think up a flimsy excuse. The reality was. Plan D told Emma everything, and I sat her down after we returned from the police station because I knew it would be difficult for her to accept. She would likely need a glass of Chardonnay before I finished my meal, so I went to the kitchen to get her one in my easy chair. Emma took the lead before I could begin, saying, "Hey, you don't have to say anything. You're the most important matter in my life, and I cherish you despite the fact that you were under a lot of stress. It's amazing that you managed to remain so composed in spite of the situation. I only wish you had told me right away. It's unfortunate that you didn't come to me. I would have been there for you. I apologize, Henry. I tried my hardest. The house was packed. I cried a lot. Of people, I didn't have time to think about it. And I was furious when I discovered the condom. I recall that I apologize, Henry. I understand that you had a terrible time at your own birthday celebration, and I will do everything in my power to make it right. I need to get this off my chest, selfish Emma, but she did it again and interrupted me. Henry, are you going to? I took Emma's cup, and she swallowed the contents. Do you want me to pack my bag? Tell me about Mom or Melissa. I stumbled. Things now or wait, morning be soon enough. And Emma backed up. Slap my face, Henry. I've forgiven you for everything you've done to me this week, if you don't mind. Act like the man I married, and you'll see what he does. You slapped me, I said, surprised. Did. And if you ever push me away like that again, Henry, I'll do it again. I think of you every time I breathe. Even though I don't like it, I now understand what you did when she told me you were dying the way you did, and I also died. She said I'm so ashamed of myself. I don't deserve it. She did it again. She interrupted my apology. This was starting to piss me off. Yes, you do. You deserve a whole lot more. Take me to bed. Or do you want me to call Mom? You know, she told me to tell you that you have a cute tool. I think so too. I kissed my forehead. Cute, I said. I'll show her who's cute. A man's power isn't cute. It's a weapon. I threw Emma over my shoulder and carried her out to the garage. You make love in the bedroom. So I screwed Emma in the garage. Let's see if she thought that was cute. Then I took her in the tool shed too. That was for her mother's smartass remark. We tore the one out of the flower garden next. That was for the humiliation her lesbian sister put me through as Emma was trying to pull a geranium out of her. But crack, I asked, well, have you had enough? Or is it still cute? Aren't you still mad at? Tell maybe we could do it in the attic next. That would sure teach him a lesson, she said, throwing her arms around my neck. That turned out to be a bad idea after the ceiling caved and we ended up in the bedroom anyway. But we sure taught Tom 3 or 4 things. We're going to do it some more if Emma can get me hard again. So you might ask me why I'm sitting in this bar. Well, Melissa asked me to stand up for her at her wedding this weekend. I don't know whether I'm the best man or the maid of honor. I'm trying to get enough courage to get my legs waxed just in case Melissa is the bride. I wouldn't want to make a mockery out of the bridesmaid outfit they've picked. That's what I'm trying to figure. So as I walked out of my new doctor's office, I had good reason to rejoice. I was going to survive, I knew. That may seem funny, but only a year ago, I believed I had less than 8 months remaining. It was all a mistake at the lab. I can't even recall what dreadful sickness they told me I had. Whatever it was, it wasn't the genuine thing, and I didn't die after that. I dismissed on my iPhone the doctor, and we still play golf together even though his handicap is 7. My game has improved. I'm now a 5. It's strange how knowing you're not going to die can alter your outlook. My new doctor, Anna, enjoys golf, yet she informed me I should live a long life. She claims I'm healthy as a horse, yet I have absolutely no concept how healthy a horse is still. She's a doctor, therefore I think they must know. It seemed a bit awkward at first going to a female doctor, yet the more I thought about it, the more sense it made. I wouldn't consider myself homophobic, but wouldn't you rather have a woman's hands wrapped around your testicles as you tilt your head and cough? I understood what my answer was. I had a smile on my face when I arrived home that night. You couldn't have removed it with a wire brush. My life was everything are going nicely these days, especially after last year's fiasco. I've been promoted at work a few months ago. And Emma, my wife, loves me. I'm well, and life is very fantastic. Henry, we have to conversation. Emma offered me 4 aspirin and a big gulp of Jack Daniels. This wasn't my as usual. I had a drink before dinner. but something felt off. "What's up, Emma?" "This afternoon, Dr. Anna called immediately before you arrived home, and Emma remarked, looking frightened, 'You have to be. You just cannot trust a doctor who does not play golf, or even one who does, for that matter.' My hand was, 'Here's to you, Henry, and everyone else,' as I lifted the enormous cup to my lips while trembling. Emma looked at me as I toasted to those of us who are going to die again. 'You need to control yourself. Henry,' she added, 'I have some news for you, but I'm not sure. You're going to like it, of course. How many times must a man hear that he's dying before he passes away?' The words in my thoughts came flooding back. 'You see, you are a loser. Emily always had a talent F. Or the subtle, "Henry, you're dead. Eat my shorts." Up, up, and away. The third voice was already experiencing the affects of the booze, so I gave Emma my cup and gave Henry his refill. "Please, Henry, please just relax. We must talk about this logically," she replied. "We're not talking about purchasing new drapes, so she can't be serious. She wants to be logical and pay attention to Henry, who is being taken from the vine in his prime. I am pregnant, stupid, and she is making jokes about having a child. What the devil is she talking about? I'm going to die. Stop making jokes about Emma, infants. How long do I have?" I said, "Fuck me," after roughly 8 weeks. She said, "Emma, we have a lot to do. Last time they gave me 8 months. I responded, "There's plenty of time to get ready," submitting myself to my fate, Henry. "Just unwind," she added. Emma was handling the news of my passing extremely coolly. Come on, Emma. We have a funeral to arrange and a million loose ends to tie up. Henry, please listen to me. I was pregnant the first time. I'm not in the mood for funeral jokes. Stop it, Emma. The doctor phoned and said I would die in 8 minutes. The last time you told me, it wasn't humorous. I'm 8 weeks pregnant, and you're still making jokes about it." Henry read my lips. "You won't." I thought, thank God this couldn't happen, as she continued slowly. "You mean I'm not going to die, you silly goose? You're not dying. Be occurring once more, and I'm so glad I'm not going to die." "Oh, hang for a second. Did you mention that you were pregnant?" I began to scream and cried. "Emma, how could you do this to me? It's not what you—" I believe Henry told me in an attempt to comfort me that everyone says, "Sniff," after you cheated on me the previous year. Emma furiously remarked, "Damn you, Henry. I didn't cheat on you, not then, and definitely not now. However, the vasectomy technique. Why is your surgery so technical? The most important thing is that it's your kid, Henry. Do you believe I know who it is? What's been going on inside of me?" I was shocked that you would even think that I didn't have a reply for her. Statement I truly wanted to trust her, but I was at a loss for words or actions. A few minutes ago, I felt like I was on top of the world, but now look at me. The weight of the world has fallen on me. When I wasn't sobbing, I drank, and soon after 9 o'clock that night, I passed out. When the lights turned on, I was in a fog, and they were as brilliant as the sun. A large camera was trained on my face. He was pointing a microphone at me as I was somewhat perplexed. "Welcome, Henry, to the game. I'm Rick Benson, and I'll be hosting the game tonight. I'm not sure what it is, but you're our next participant, Daddy. The game operates that way, Henry, and only your wife truly understands how to play." "Henry, you raise a valid question. How can I possibly win if I play but Rick? It's wonderful. All to have you here tonight." Rick, Emma chuckled, and your beautiful wife, Emma, welcomed Emma. "No, I'm not, and I don't want to. You seem a bit pale, Henry. Are you okay? Play this pointless game anymore." "Unfortunately, Emma, you're already unconscious. Emma, will you kindly change over the first image so that the father may play now? Mark, please don't be your neighbor." I sobbed. "Emma, please show us the next photo of who?" Rick, my high school sweetheart, showed us the final photo. "Is that Emma?" I woke up sweating. "Henry, are you the father? We'll find out after these commercial messages." My brain was racing, and I had a strong need to. I won't tell you that bit because it could come up later at my murder trial, so I wouldn't want you to inquire. I was lounging in a hot tub when Emma entered. She sat on the toilet and peed while the batteries were on, while I tried to cut my wrists with my electric razor. "Oh, Henry, my Nelco gave out. I just hung up with Dr. Anna, and we're both," Emma firmly stated. But what if you go down there and stay there until you're sure you're the father of our baby? If this kid isn't yours, you'll have to spend a lot of time at church since you're not feeling well. Henry, I bet you can just imagine, she stated bluntly, as I raised the second child of God. I've completed my fair number of sperm tests in the past, so that's how we were going to demonstrate the biological reality. The vasectomy, but there was a significant issue with how we would take a sample while traveling to the physician. We hadn't even considered whether or not we were Catholic as we passed a church, so I questioned whether it was A. While reading an erectile dysfunction leaflet in the waiting room, Emma stood up and began to. I said, "Where are you going?" And she pushed me back, saying, "I'm not about to leave your side until we settle this thing." I recall the nurse escorting us to an examination room and informing us that the doctor will be joining us shortly. When I was 7 years old and suffering from measles, the last time someone entered an examination room with me, it seemed like the wait was it to be much longer than it was. Emma sat on a little stool and tapped her foot, appearing to find it funny that I was so. The doctor requested me to take off my clothing, something I had done countless times in front of Emma with too. Have any of you had a lady handle your package with your wife? I was still a little apprehensive about it, ladies. She checked my unit and examined the tiny scar on my scrotum as we were seated in the room, and it was rather unsettling. "All right, Henry." She said she needed to inspect my prostate gland up on the table. "Isn't that something a lawyer does?" I nearly. Squeezing my nut sack and sticking 3 fingers up my butthole caused me to faint. Dr. Anna must also be a lawyer, because I was screaming for my life the last time I went there because it was exactly how I felt. Discover T. The connection between Emma's pregnancy and my poop hole. We never even thought about backdoor sex, and I wasn't in a good mood. The odds of me obtaining a boner were as slim as winning the state lottery when she handed me that dumb little cup. Henry was asked, "What do you want me to do with this?" Dr. Anna said, "Okay, but how do you suggest we understand that?" I pointed to my balls within the cup and stated, glanced at me as like I had lost my mind, and I saw that I nodded. "Normally, you need an erection too. I see your situation. Henry, Emma, do you have any suggestions? I guess I could try the doctor. Get the sample you want." Stated, "You are for the results." In our years together, Emma has never failed to excite me, so she took her away. Blouse. And I noticed a slight movement as her bra slipped off. Her finger caressed her head and discovered. I have to give it to Emma since she persisted in attempting even after my tools off button deflated like a blowout on the motorway. She stroked me every time for a long, and I feared she could have been with someone else when she realized my. The issue was that she sobbed as she left the room, and I didn't intentionally do it since I didn't have any control over my own tool. Anna entered the room and began questioning me about what I had done to Emma. I explained the situation, and she nodded before leaving. Closet. She returned a few seconds later with a tray containing a needle that seemed to be around 3 feet long and a vial. "What's thing that, and more essential, what's this?" she questioned. "What are you intending to do with it?" I already knew the answer and didn't like it. "Come on, Henry, this won't hurt a bit," she said. "Well, then let me shove it in you and see for myself." I fired back, "If you could stick it in me, Henry, we wouldn't need the shot now." It was rather humorous, and I said, "What's up with this wee ow ouch thing?" I apologized to Henry, but I had to do it. Dr. Anna, where in the world had I heard it before? My grandmother used to mention a watchful pot or something like that, as I sat calmly on the stool and gazed at my tool. I was carefully counting the tiles on the ceiling when the doctor said, "Other," which must have been what she was talking about. She remarked, "Let's get started, Henry," and left the room after giving me the cup. I had been really busy. You know how my brain works, so it doesn't matter that I hadn't realized I was as rigid as a screen door. Works, it must have been the most significant and least fulfilling thought I'd had in a long time. But what if it was? I stared down into the plastic cup, the milky white glow just stuck in my head. I was a little confused at the time, so I thought I was here to say that. "Come on, you little pig, and sit down." There was a lot of pressure on me at the time because my past and future were dependent on the scientific data in that pool of. I've heard that sitting on a plastic cup with mucus at the bottom can help you think more clearly. Some people claim that I had my epiphany on a mountaintop in Tibet. It all comes down to trust when seated at a stainless steel table in a 10 by 8 cubicle. Although it's a straightforward idea, the real meaning of trust is, to be honest, harder to comprehend than nuclear fusion. It was simple for me to declare that I trusted Emma, But did I really? It's a deeper idea that's farther away than the star. Emma had informed me that I was the father of her unborn kid. So why was I here speaking to a pool of sperm if Emma was my life, the mother of my wife, and I trusted her, so why did I need evidence? I had experienced many happy and sad moments with her, but she never questioned any of my choices. She just had faith in me. My wife had never betrayed me, but I did, and Emma understood what trust was. I loved her. Although I occasionally mistrust her, medical science has never failed me. In fact, it has done so several times in the recent past. Year, for example, when I was informed I had only 8 months left, and why is my appendix scar on the left whereas everybody else's is on the right? Have you ever pondered why a doctor practices medicine? That question tells it all. They practice because they haven't got it perfect. Yet was I going to think that I was starting to doubt Emma's reliability? After all, she was the one who requested and demanded this test. She wouldn't have done that if she had something to conceal. She would never have come here today if there was even the tiniest chance the baby wasn't mine. As I dressed, I felt deceived by Emma. She had come with me today to support me. She had set aside the lack of trust and respect that I had showed her. What had I done? I had accused her of being I was ready to view her as. If I were to take the exam, what would the bad man say about the fact that she was still there to support me? My love for Emma was suspected, but we have been together for more than 28 years. Truly believe her. I could speak the words, but did I mean them? More importantly, did I think they were true all of a sudden? It was too obvious to me. So I placed the sample cup on the counter and walked out of the room, following the hallway to Dr. Anna's office. And the doctor saw that Emma's eyes were red from crying as I talked. Without showing emotion, I questioned if the words I was saying could possibly make up for the harm I had already caused to my wife. Let's go home, honey, but what about the test? Emma asked. It's not crucial. I reached for her hand and whispered, believe me, that's all that matters. Months later, our kid was born, weighing 7 pounds 4 ounces. And vivacious, a youngster with 10 fingers, 10 toes, 2 ears, and 1 nose that Emma handled. You may call me a fool or an idiot if you want, but that's what has been done, even at her age. Would you be able to take the same leap of faith and trust that I did if you were in my shoes? I would do it again. Though, not everyone is prepared to do so. If you're thinking about it, ask yourself if it was worth it to be correct. Lost, give it some serious thought. The solution isn't as straightforward as it would appear. Things up, I have to pay to be confirmed, and I don't feel sorry for old Henry at all. Did you know that? I think it's quite limited that the insurance company tells only one to a client. Would you have trusted your partner, or did you require proof? Please share your ideas in the comment section below, and remember to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing tales.